out of that?
It's a good question. I mean, I think the short answer is that the short answer, a lot of these series can shift sometimes on matchups and situations, where some team figures something out and it takes either it's insurmountable or it takes a long time for the other team to cope with that change. But when you're in those holes and you're fighting out, I think simply toughness and connectivity. I think simply like to have that will and the toughness and connectivity is what is the special sauce or the ingredient that allows teams to fight back in those situations or to stop.
So first off, man, I want to say one of my videos just hit 100 views. That's the most views I've ever had in a video. My first time crossing the 100 view mark. I just want to say thank you. I appreciate that. And let's get to the video. So the topic on my mind today is 3-1 leads and why they happen in the first place. In reality, only 13 times in NBA history we have seen a 3-1 lead blown. However, this postseason is clearly different because we've seen one team come back from 3-1 deficits twice in the same postseason. So what's so special about the Nuggets that they have the power to magically come back from 3-1 leads? The truth is, it has nothing to do with magic and basically everything to do with coaching. For example, the 1996 NBA Finals. MJ and the Bulls won in 6 games. But what people don't remember is that the Bulls were up 3-0 in that series before George Karl, the coach for the Supersonics, finally put Gary Payton on Michael Jordan and told him to guard him. So what you have is the Supersonics winning 2 straight games because the Bulls were caught off guard. And in game 6, the closeout game, MJ had 22 points on 19 shots. The Bulls got major contributions from everyone else. So what you have here is a series that could have possibly gone to a game 7 where anything could happen based off of one adjustment. That's how important coaching is. So let's discuss the obvious, which is the Clippers and Nuggets series. And this time is one of the few times Skip Bayless was also right. Because I remember he was saying on the show that this is a strange series for the fact that they took turns blowing each other out. It was never you hit a shot, I'ma hit a shot. It was I blow you off for 5 minutes and you blow me off for 7 minutes, right? So the Clippers had a problem in their system that the Nuggets were able to extort in certain situations, which is why they lost the way they did. For example, the Clippers were up at the start of the third by double digits in every game. And this is what they like to be in. They like to be up big so that Pat Bev can start dancing. But what happens when the game is close? This is where their weakness gets exposed. And that's their lineup issue. In game 7, the Nuggets had Lou Williams in every pick and roll with Murray and Jokic, right? And they picked him apart. When Doc realized this, he took him out and inserted Pat Bev. But what happens? You lose scoring. Pat Bev went 0 for 5 from 3 in the fourth quarter alone in game 7. So it boils down to coaching and adjustments. Doc Rivers got outcoached by Mike Malone. Simple as that. And when you have a superstar that's passive, like Kawhi Leonard, and is not the type to say, I don't care whatever Doc Rivers say, I'm taking on Murray, this is what you get. So let's move on to another example. The 2016 NBA Finals. So let's take it game by game. In game 1, Golden State had their usual pass-heavy offense and had contributions from everyone, including 20 from the mid-range Hall of Fame badge Sean Livingston. And when you combine that with the fact that LeBron and Kyrie played horrible, you get a blowout win for Golden State. So you move on to game 2. And you get basically the same thing. A blowout win for Golden State. This time LeBron and Kyrie played even worse. So you move on to game 3. Well, LeBron and Kyrie finally showed up and both dropped 30 points. While Golden State as a team they struggled. Now we get to game 4, where Steph had a big game with 38 points and Klay with 25. And this is the famous game that would lead to the momentum changing, right? So remember that. In game 5, this is where LeBron and Kyrie both went off for 40 points. Now this was big because Draymond was suspended. But for me personally, I can't see how Draymond was going to stop either LeBron or Kyrie from getting 40. I don't see that happening. So I don't think that would have changed the outcome of that game specifically, right? So they both go for 40, and you combine that with the fact that Steph was having a bad game. So let's talk about Game 7 now. What was the adjustment made in Game 7? Well, due to Andrew Bogut getting hurt, Golden State had to start Iguodala. And the Cavs took advantage of this with Kevin Love and Tristan. Now, I'm not saying that Bogut was a difference maker, but for this one game he was. It just so happened that it was Game 7. If it was Game 1 and Bogut got injured, Golden State could have made adjustments. Probably gave Varejao a couple of minutes. But since it was so sudden and it's Game 7, they didn't have time to adjust. This is how important coaching is in these situations. So they go out there without Andrew Bogut, and they start their small ball lineup, the 5, right? So what happens now is there's no rim protection. And when you have a guy like LeBron on the other side, he's going to pick that apart. That's why LeBron finished with 11 assists. Because there's no rim protection, he's just getting in. And they're so scared that he's going to score, they just collapse and he just pass it out. And they hit the shots. So one last example, because I'm trying to get you to understand how important coaching is in the NBA. And also having a player that's a leader. The coach can't lead on his own. He needs a player in the locker room to lead as well. So this one is the 2015 Clippers, the Lob City. And I'm going to run through this one kind of quick because I know y'all got things to do. So Game 1, you got bad basketball by Houston all around. Harden was efficient, but he wasn't scoring like they needed him to. He finished with 20 points. On the Clippers side, they picked Houston apart. 6 players had 10 or more points, and Matt Barnes had 20, Redick had 17, Blake had 26, and DeAndre had 11. Even Austin Rivers had 17, and Jamal Crawford coming off the bench had 21. They just couldn't miss, right? Now in Game 2, you got better basketball by James Harden. He had 32 points. Dwight had 24. The Clippers were very inefficient besides Blake's 34. Now after Chris Paul got injured in Game 7 in the previous round, he missed the first 2 games of this series. When he came back, he was rusty, which is expected, but it didn't matter because the Clippers won anyway, right? So JJ Redick had 31 points and hit 5 threes, while Houston as a team shot 40% from the field. So Chris Paul didn't hurt the team, we should say, right? So in Game 4, it was a blowout for the Clippers. DeAndre Jordan had 26, Blake Griffin had 21, Redick had 18, Chris Paul had 15, Jamal had 13, and Austin Rivers had 12, right? So they just completely blew the Houston off the floor. So Houston once again played horrible basketball. So we move on to Game 5. Houston had 3 guys score 20 or more, along with 15 from Corey Brewer, who will be important later on. But overall, the Clippers shot 41% from the field, and they just had a rough night. Now in every series that has a 3-1 lead, right, that is blown, there is one game that you can point to and say that's where they messed up. That is where the momentum changed, right? And in this case, it was Game 6. When teams game plan, they game plan for the best 2-3 players on the team, right? At least offensively. They game plan for how to stop those guys, right? So when you game plan for James Harden and for Dwight Howard and for Trevor Ariza, what happens now is you got role players who have to step up. And in this case, Corey Brewer and Josh Smith took it upon themselves and said, you know what? We are going to have our best games tonight. On this random, what day was this game on? May 14th. On this random day, on May 14th, we are going to torch these bums. And they went off for 19 points each. And even Terrence Jones had 16. Clippers were up 14 at the beginning of the 4th. But what they did, they had the lead. So what they were trying to do is run out the clock. Instead of playing how they play and extending the lead, they decided to slow the game down and try to maintain the lead, right? So what happens? They lose game 6. Okay, no big deal. Clippers go home. Doc Rivers writes in his notepad, okay, we gotta pay attention to these role players because they're torching us, right? So what they did was focus on Corey Brewer and Josh Smith. And they stopped them. Yeah, they definitely did stop them. I mean, Josh Smith had 15, Corey Brewer had 11, Terrence Jones had 8. But what happens when you focus on role players, man? What happens? You get James Harden, who they totally forgot about, dropping 31. You get Dwight Howard, who they totally forgot about, dropping 16. You got Trevor Ariza, who they totally forgot about, dropping 22. So this is how important coaching is. And how important a locker room leader is. When Denver came back from 3-1 twice, what did the Lakers do in Game 5, led by LeBron? Demolish them. They said, nah, you ain't coming back on us. We're not gonna even let you get your hopes up. And that's something Kawhi wasn't built to do. He's not that outspoken. And Doc Rivers has trouble making adjustments on the fly. I will guarantee right now that as long as Nick Nurse is coaching in the league, no team coached by him will ever lose a 3-1 lead. Nick Nurse makes adjustments even when he doesn't have to. He just makes adjustments so the opposing team don't get too comfortable. I mean, it's crazy. But without further ado, I hope you liked the video. If you like the video, like the video. I run 3 news pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under SCT Sports. I'll leave a link below. Subscribe once again. We just hit 100 views on my video. We building up, man. It's my first time crossing the 100 view mark. Also, I'd appreciate if you help me get to my goal of 10 subscribers. Right now, we're 4 away. With that being said, y'all stay safe and healthy out there. Don't blow no 3-1 leads.